Welcome everyone to the Munich Wolverines expansion draft. Today it's finally time to fill the roster, shape the team and draft 32 players for the new expansion team in Germany. I've waited for this such a long time. I'm really excited for this. Last episode, check that out if you missed that. We saved 8 players, 4 on offense, 4 on defense for each team. And now from the remaining player pool, we have to draft 1 player for each team. Let's get it started. Right now we have an empty roster and we have 250 million to spend in cap. As said last episode, we're not allowed to spend all of that money in the expansion draft. So I set a cap for 50%, so 125 million to draft 32 players on their current contracts. And with the remaining money, we can spend a little bit in free agency, but you're going to see that the best player in free agency is around 70. So there are not many good players, mainly backups to fill the roster. From now on, you will see the cap from 125 million. So let's get into the player selection. As you can see, there are some really good players available, mainly older ones or on not so important positions. But yeah, that's just the case when the teams tag their best players. I'm pretty sure that we will still be able to get a really, really good team. But money is going to be a factor. But before we're drafting the very first player for the expansion team, a few trades happened this week. So I already commented on the last video. James Robinson, no longer a Jacksonville Jaguar. So the Jaguars will use their tag to keep Travis Etienne, their starting running back. Robinson is heading to the Jets. The Jets will not change their selection. So Robinson could be a running back target for us. Another trade that happened was Robert Quinn from the Bears to the Eagles, also implemented in here. Does not change anything in terms of keeping the players. But the final trade, Kadarius Toney from the New York Giants to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Giants tag Kadarius Toney here as a super interesting prospect for the future on wide receiver. So they're changing their tag to Sterling Shepard, their now best wide receiver on the team here in the game. And the Chiefs now with Kadarius Toney and a loaded roster. This selection is going to be interesting. But first, let's look at quarterback. Arguably the most important position. And here we have not the best player pool. So Jimmy G's here, also on a fairly reasonable contract. So he could be a target for us. But also if we want to choose younger players, Matt Corral, for example, I really like Bailey Zappi. So he's going to be a target for us. But the Patriots also have other players. Desmond Ridder could be an option, especially with the Falcons not having the best roster in the NFL. Or Daniel Jones, I don't know. Let's see. And because there are so many options here, I'm not choosing quarterback first. My strategy is first to select kind of the face of the franchise on a position where it is very clear who to pick. On wide receiver, Julio Jones is the best overall player by far here on wide receiver. And he's also on such a cheap contract. So we need to pick Julio Jones first overall for the expansion team. And again, the order in which I pick the players does not matter at all. I'm going to note down the salaries and I'm going to start with the most important positions. Wide receiver, arguably one of the more important ones. Here, Julio Jones, a former legend, now heading to Munich. With one important player on offense, let's look at the defense and let's look at cornerback. We need some lockdown corners. As you might remember, I had my problems in my franchise series in the past with coverage. So I'm not going to take a risk here, and I'm spending over 15 million on the best cornerback here in this player pool. Ravens are such a loaded roster if we're going to look at that. Not gonna able to pick a kicker or punter here, but Marcus Peters, Kevin Seidler also on defense with Calais Campbell, one of the better edge rushers. Such a loaded roster, but I'm going to keep the best player, and it's Marcus Peters, so let's pick him. Maybe the most important position on defense, edge rusher. I want to create pressure and I want to spend most money here on the defensive line, but as you can see, there are not many good players, so I need to spend another 15 million on Cameron Hayward, and now with only 3 players picked, we have already spent nearly 40 million, but we need to invest big in the beginning and then fill up the roster with younger and cheaper players. And now we have maybe 2 of the most important positions on defense picked with edge rusher and cornerback. Also 1 cornerstone on offense with Julio Jones. So now we need to invest in the O-line. Our quarterback is not going to be the best one, so maybe our focus should be the running game, or at least give the quarterback the best circumstances possible. So I'm starting on the interior. There are so many good centers here in the game, but a no-brainer pick here is David Andrews. He's the 4th best cornerback, and also comparing the salary, he's really cheap. Also brings some experience in with 99 overall, especially good in run blocking. He perfectly fits our future scheme. And that, of course, means that Bailey Zappi is not going to be an option on quarterback anymore, so let's keep that in mind for future picks. On guard, both Cleveland O-liners, of course, stand out, and that's also going to be my first pick. Wyatt Teller. He's the younger one, he's also the cheaper one, and also really good in run blocking. So no-brainer pick here. We're taking on one of the best guards in football. We're of course spending the money, but I think it's well spent here. Of course, again, Cleveland is a team that's really, really good. Also Kareem Hunt on running back would have been an option, but now we're spending the money to keep a good O-line. For the second pick, I thought about Justin Pugh for the Cardinals. 88 overall, cheap salary, but I have another player for the Cardinals in mind. So my pick is going to be Quinn Meinerz from the Broncos. Only 23 years old, 85 overall, still on the rookie contract. And if we're checking the roster, you can see there are not many real alternatives. The good players are fairly expansive. Not going to pick a fullback this early, so Quinn Meinerz definitely makes sense here to pick from the Broncos. The Niners are one of the most loaded teams here for this exercise. Trent Williams, I'm going to look at tackle because tackle also a really important position, and as said, I want to spend my money on the offensive line. But 23 million, that's just too much. We cannot take on this salary hit, and also with the age. I'm rather looking at the other tackle, Mike McGlinchey, a few years younger. Of course, he's worse, but he's also way cheaper. Pass blocking, not his strength here in the game, but run blocking, again, fits our scheme perfectly. And we have a solid tackle for not much money. And for my second tackle pick, I also don't need to think twice. La'el Collins, 29 years old, 86 overall, also a good contract. I mean, he's solid, and I think solid is the way to go now on the offensive line. Tyron Smith is not much more expansive, but 100 overall, he would have been such a great pick, but I'm not going to risk taking on a player who's injured all the time, so I want to have my force in La'el Collins and spend the Cowboys pick differently and get one of the most explosive players on running back, and I'm not meaning Ezekiel Elliott. The selection is going to be Tony Pollard, 86 overall, also a really cheap rookie contract. And here in the game, he has 4 years left, so that's really cool. And if we order by speed, he's the second fastest player available here behind Raheem Mostert. But I wanted to have the younger option in Tony Pollard. So another offensive weapon. And speaking of offensive weapons, let's finish off the wide receiver and tight end position. We already drafted Julio Jones, and there are really, really good other players available. But just for the identity of this rebuild, of this franchise, I need to pick Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not the guy who loves every German player just because he's German, but for this exercise, for the expansion team, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is such a threat in reality. Here only 78 overall, so that's why the Lions did not keep him. He has really reliable hands, maybe not the fastest guy, but depending on which quarterback we're going to get, maybe this is the way to go. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is the pick here. And the final wide receiver, another weapon. I want to get a little bit more speed and agility. I mentioned Kadarius Toney. I loved him in college, and now he's part of this expansion team. He's really agile, could be faster, but overall just a well-rounded wide receiver. And as you see, it's not only a decision for Kadarius Toney, but against many, many other really good and especially cheap players. I could have filled the whole roster with Chiefs players, basically. Especially on linebackers, such good young players. Running back could have been an option, and also Joe Thuney, but we're already really well set on guard, and he's also, well, really expansive. So on the Chiefs roster, I'm picking Kadarius Toney. Let's finish off the offensive weapons. Quarterback, let's keep that in mind for later. But tight end, I'm not really happy here. Not the best players. Of course, Zach Ertz, Mike Gesicki stand out. Dalton Schultz, of course. But also everyone, not the cheapest one. So let's spend the nearly 10 million on Zach Ertz, 88 overall. And this was the Arizona Cardinals player I had in mind. He's going to complete our offensive weapons. Most money is already spent, so not much left, and there is still a lot of players we need to pick. I said I wanted to focus on the front, but as you can see, there are not many good and cheap defensive ends and tackles available. So let's load up the secondary and maybe use that as an approach. We already picked Marcus Peters. There is Stephon Gilmore. Also, not really expansive, but I need to pick Steven Nelson here. The Texans did not save him. Only 5 million, 87 overall. He is a no-brainer pick. The Texans' strategy was to rather keep the younger players, which is of course fine, but now good for us to get another lockdown corner here in the game. Let's hope so. And the third cornerback I'm going to pick is CJ Henderson. He is younger, not the cheapest one, but there are not many options available for the Panthers. Of course, that means that on quarterback we cannot pick Baker or Sam Darnold or Matt Corral. Well, something to keep in mind, but Baker and Darnold, maybe not the best options for us either way. So I'm taking a flyer on a young cornerback who's not the worst here in the game. And now we have 3 really good cornerbacks. So let's continue to look into the secondary. And here Marcus Epps directly stands out. 87 overall, so way higher than he should be. I'm not complaining because with this salary, he is a no-brainer pick. And the same actually applies to Nasir Adderley. So the first backup, we don't need 2 free safeties, but with this salary and this overall, I just cannot pass here. And maybe one of those players can play a nickelback or change positions. I don't know. I don't have a strategic plan yet. I just know that with those salary caps, we need to get both on our team. And that gives us flexibility to spend a little bit more money on strong safety. And with more money, I don't mean Harrison Smith with 15. I rather mean Marcus May, 7 million. So now we're over 100 million already spent. So only 25 or a little bit more than 20 left here. But Marcus May, good strong safety, the second best available. And if you're looking at this Saints team, most players are really expansive. I'm not picking a third free safety, so Marcus May is kind of one of the only good selections that are still left for the Saints, so no-brainer pick, and the secondary is finished. No linebackers yet for our team. This is going to change because Denzel Perryman from the Raiders is our newest additions. 87 overall, so the second or third best linebacker, and also one of the cheaper ones if you compare that. We need to keep money in mind, so Denzel Perryman, no-brainer, linebacker number 1. Linebacker 2, Cole Holcomb, same story here, cheap, really good. And for Washington, not many alternatives, to be honest. So Cole Holcomb, second linebacker for us. For the third one, I need to scroll a little bit down. There are many options, but we don't have too much teams available. We have not picked from the Indianapolis Colts, and Bobby Okereke, I think that's how we're going to pronounce him from now on. I think he said something like the pronunciation Okereke was wrong, so Okereke should be the right one. But still, he is going to be a player in Munich, and I'm sure Germans are going to pronounce him whatever they want to. Not going to matter here. Cheap contract, 81 overall. And surprisingly, I did not like many players from the Colts. Stephon Gilmore for sure could have been an option, but we're pretty good on cornerback right now. Kelly, another one, but we had a cheaper center. And Matt Ryan, one of the better quarterbacks who's left. But we cannot take on this salary hit. Otherwise, we're over the cap. So, to be honest, Bobby Okereke is one of the better remaining players. Same story for the New York Jets. There are not many targets for us as an expansion team. I could draft James Robinson or Michael Carter, but running back number 2, so directly a backup behind Tony Pollard, is not my priority right now. So let's keep the fourth linebacker and let's finish off the linebacker core in Quan Alexander, 28 years old, 80 overall. I like this cap hit, to be honest. So Jets already picked from. Before we're picking the rest of the defense and the backups, there are not many teams left. So we need to sneak in a quarterback selection here. One option could be Teddy Bridgewater. We have not picked yet from the Dolphins. Another option could be to look at the Seahawks. Geno Smith has played a really good season so far. 79 overall here in the game. We could also look at the other Seahawks quarterback, Drew Lock, younger, and here in the game 71. Intelligence 68 could be a problem. Of course, there are also Giants players. Daniel Jones, also younger. Good accuracy here and fairly mobile. Or the other Giants quarterback, Tyrod Taylor. He's older. I'm not picking any one of them. My option is going to be Desmond Ridder from the Atlanta Falcons. 23 years old, 72 overall, still on the rookie contract, and he is also fairly mobile. If we sort by speed, Malik Willis is the fastest one, but to be honest, his intelligence of 45, that's not going to be a good choice. We saw that. Marcus Mariota also an option, but he's too expansive, so I'm taking one of the faster players who has also a really good arm here. Intelligence should be something we could work with, so I'm taking a flyer on Desmond Ridder and hope that he can develop. Otherwise, QB is something we need to address in the draft. But behind such a great O-line and such good weapons, I'm really excited for Desmond Ridder as our Falcon selection. Defensive tackle, we have not picked anyone here. Michael Pierce would be a good choice, but yeah, no Ravens left for us to pick. Same for the Eagles or the Lions or the Colts. Also really high cap hits. So the player that makes sense is Mike Pennell. 80 overall. Cheap contract, but yeah, defensive tackle is not going to be a strength of this team. And for the other player, we need to scroll down a little bit because this is going to be Raekwon Davis from the Dolphins, 25 years old, 74 overall. Again, he's not the best player, but now we are at a point of this draft where we need to pick needs over value. So there would have been really good other options, but right now we just need to fill the roster and fill all the remaining positions. Same story for the Bills, and that's also the advantage of such a great team. It gives us flexibility to pick from any position we want to, and here the pick is going to be edge rusher Shaq Lawson, 75 overall, so again, not the best player, but a good cap hit, and we need edge rusher number 2. Under 10 million left to spend, 7 players, and we are now in the area of choosing backups. And another backup or player we could use on edge is Deshaun Hen from the Tennessee Titans. He's a little bit down the board here, but same story. Cheap player, he's also serviceable with his 75 overall, so should be a good value and good backup on the edge. Now only the Giants, Jaguars, Packers, Rams, Seahawks and Vikings are left. And for the Packers, I'm picking the backup running back. I'm taking AJ Dillon just because of his strength. I think he as a power back could be a really good addition to the explosive Tony Pollard. The only position we have not yet picked from is fullback. Maybe also not the most important one, but this is going to be the last time we spend money on a position that is a little bit more than the average of the last few picks. CJ Ham from the Vikings, a cap hit of 2.8 million, 92 overall. We need a fullback. We have not picked from the Vikings, so let's take one of the better ones in the game. For the final 4 picks, we're picking team by team and just having a look what's available here. We need to be flexible. And for the Jaguars, if we look at the cap hit, Javon Taylor could be an option here. There's not much flexibility left. 4 players and only 5 million left to spend. So tackle back up, young player, 77 overall, should be good enough. Same for the Rams, and surprisingly not many options I like, and especially not many cheap options for this team. That's not true here, so many players on rookie contracts, but not really positions I need. So I'm taking David Edwards, guard, 25 years old, really cheap. Another backup for our O-line where we have spent such a great amount of money. So let's also keep the backups on a high level to make the O-line really a strength of this offense. Final 2 picks, Seahawks. I wanted to choose another offensive player, but the player that makes the most sense here is linebacker Cody Barton, 25 years old, 80 overall, 1 million. We don't have much cap room left. So he's our 5th linebacker and a good choice in my opinion. Final picks for the Giants. I don't like the offensive players. We need to look for a player whose cap hit is under 1 million. I'm taking O'Shane Ximines on linebacker, 77 overall. He's fairly cheap, so he's going to be the final pick. And with that, the expansion draft is closed. We have 17 players on defense, 15 on offense, and still a free agency where we can sign multiple backups. I spent another 41 million on backups. Of course, I overspent on some players, and some players were there that I just did not get. Well, I think it makes more sense for them to stay in the US and not traveling all the time to Germany. But whatever, here are a few players that want to play for the Munich Wolverines. We needed a punter. He's not the best one. Same story for kicker. So this is something we need to adjust next year, or hope that there are a few releases after free agency and training camp. The best player we got, William Childs, 73 overall, awesome work ethic and competitiveness. He was my target number one since we need a fourth wide receiver. He's really young and has such a high contract. I don't like to pay that much, but yeah, and right now we have the cap space. I hope that he can develop with this work ethic and competitiveness. If so, he could be a really good fourth option or third option if we lose Julio Jones. And other than that, as you can see, mainly players in the 60s or even 50s, there were not many good options left. So all of them are just here for backup. To end off the expansion draft episode, let's have a first look at our starting offense. Desmond Ridder, let's see how he performs. And I really like our running backs, the wide receivers. O-line is looking so good. I think we have a pretty good team. Also, of course, all depending on how Desmond Ridder performs. But the focus should be the running game. And I think behind this O-line, there is going to be some really good runs. Defensively, same story. One really good cornerstone on the front. Other than that, not many good players available. Our strength is in the secondary with an awesome cornerback duo and also CJ Henderson as a third player. Not going to keep Quan Alexander here on nickelback, so either one of the free safeties or a cornerback, but also the safeties look really good. So of course, right now we don't have a superstar on this team. We don't have anyone who's really good, especially on defense. Of course, our O-line looks sick with the 99 overall center, but still, we're going to need some superstars in future drafts and free agency. But this team, it's really good. And right now, my expectations are playoffs. I'm so excited how this team is going to perform in the season. This is going to be something for next episode. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Feel free to share, like, and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. But other than that, enjoy your week and hopefully see you next time. Bye bye.